Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we have for you our customer portal orientation. As you all know, we have been working tirelessly to bring this platform to you guys, the OpenWorks portal. And we have today our resident expert on all things portal, Mr. Edward Pim, Senior Vice President of Operations and Experience here at OpenWorks. And he will be going through all of these amazing features that the portal has to offer you guys. One thing I want to say as well before I hand it off to Ed is that later today, all of you, well, the primary contact of your company or organization will be receiving an email with login details and a temporary password and instructions on how to reset that password so that later today you will have access to the portal. In case you encounter any problems, please send an email to customerportal@openworksweb.com. Also, after this webinar, I will be sharing with all of you a recording of this as well as a PDF version of the deck that we will be going over today. And at the end of this presentation, we will open it up for questions as well. As you all know how this works, there's a little button at the bottom of the Zoom screen where you can insert all of your questions and we will answer them at the end. With that, Ed, handing it off to you.
Thank you, Maria. Truly appreciate that introduction. And I'd like to say a very warm welcome to everybody who's joining. And thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to be with us today on what is a very exciting launch now of the customer portal. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank those of our customers who have supported us with the beta trial over the last couple of months, and their feedback has been invaluable in terms of informing some of the iterative enhancements that we need to make, and that are being delivered now as part of the overall portal experience. So without further ado, the aim today is to take you through the navigation side of the portal. So first of all, how you actually log in, change passwords, etc. A brief introduction and overview then of the actual platform itself, including how to navigate throughout the various different pages that are sitting there. And again, then we'll do a deeper dive, a double click, if you will, into some of the information that is available for you and how to actually interpret what's being shown on the site. From our perspective, this is an incredibly exciting part of the journey that we're on in terms of improving our overall customer experience. And this is primarily driven by the fact that we're now sharing information in a fully transparent way so that you are seeing information which is directly linked back to the OpenWorks systems. And this is just part of that ongoing process to better inform you and also to ensure that we are accountable for the communication levels that are sitting out there. So the first part of the journey then is around how you actually log into the system. The opening screen, you'll be asked to provide a username, there'll be a password, and then initially, as Maria's just touched on, we will also be asking you to initially do a password reset. So those credentials will be sent out today. If you are having any issues, the contact address is sitting there at the bottom. The email address is customerportal@openworksweb.com. So that information will be there, and then you'll do an initial password reset. At this point, you'll also be asked to set up your security questions. This, again, with the user experience, we're trying to make this as standard as we can and in line with your expectations for any other portal that you're using, both on a professional or on a personal level. So once you've actually gone through that, the first stage of this is how you actually walk into the dashboard itself. So the opening dashboard shows some key features. To the left-hand side is the navigation ribbon, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. And then there's some key information which is sitting up there, which just gives you an instant view of how things are going from an overall account perspective. There are also on this some quick links as well. So this is how you can actually immediately go in to create a ticket, a service ticket, how you can actually get quick access. If you know your contract number, you can immediately jump to the contract in question. And then in addition to that, for any tickets that have already been opened, there'll be a status summary sitting out there, which is identifying the progress on any tickets that have been raised. In addition to that, you'll see an overview of the invoice status, number of contracts that are sitting out there, buildings that are active, invoicing side of things, and again, a bit more of a status on the ticket side, as well as on the supply ordering piece. The navigation ribbon then is the key to how you actually negotiate your way through the different screens. And so we'll touch on that now in a bit more detail. Sitting off to the left-hand side, you'll see at the top there the hamburger. And if you click on the hamburger, that will actually enable you to expand the ribbon. And you can see at the top of that ribbon, then once it's been expanded, you have the ability to hide the ribbon or have it open, depending on what your personal preference is. The navigation pieces there are pretty simple. So this can take you back to the opening page on the dashboard side. You then also have the ability to look into the contracts, the different buildings that are as part of your portfolio, invoices that are currently open, open tickets, supply ordering, and then last but not least, the company profile. And again, we're going to just do a quick dive into all of those pages to show you how those actually operate. So let's start off, if we may, with the contract side. So as you come into the contract screen, what you will see is a list of all active contracts. You'll also have the ability to see any archived contracts that are sitting out there. I would point out that archived contracts will not go back to the full extent of the inception of your contract with OpenWorks, but instead they will be anything which was active prior to the system going live, which was mid-June of last year, and anything which was associated in the prior months directly to that. So you'll have that historical view, but it will only go back so far. As we continue to add contracts, you will then have the full history from this point going forward. On the screen itself, you'll have the ability to be able to filter the view that you're seeing. So that actually helps you when you're actually looking at the view that is sitting out there. In addition to that, you'll have the ability to be able to download, and the download can be made into a number of different formats. But again, it's whatever works for you personally, your personal preference, whether that's a CSV file, an Excel file, or a PDF. In addition to that, if you're looking to search for a specific location or a specific criteria that you want to be able to do, you're able to do that through the contract ID search button that's sitting out there. When you actually look at the contract itself, in the box that is sitting below, you'll see the full details. So first of all, it's giving you the territory information, the ID that is associated with that particular contract. You'll have the building details, again, just to help with how that works, the account number, and then you'll also see the actual billing amount for that on a monthly basis. The number of the contract is the revision side of things, and that also shows the contract period that's in place for that. And then the active assignments, how many folk are actually actively assigned to servicing that specific location. If we then do the double click from that, that then takes us into the detail around specific contracts. And what you'll be able to see here is, again, you'll be able to see at the top of the page, you'll see the active contract, you'll see the amount of that's being done on a monthly basis. You'll be able to see the contract term, and then you'll be able to see the invoice detail that sits under that. And that will also show you from whether the invoice has been paid or whether there are items outstanding for whatever reason that may be. And you'll get more detail that sits underneath that. We'll now dive into the building side. The building side, again, you have at the top of the screen, you have a list of the filter tools, the download and export view, and also the ability to search for a specific building based on the ID number. So those features, as you'll see, are standard very much across the screens, again, trying to assist with the navigational aspects of this. When you're actually looking at the building detail itself, this will show you not only the name of the building and the code that's assigned to it, it'll show you the account that's assigned on it. On the address side, that will be sitting out there. Who is the vendor? Last but not least, then the amount that's actually being paid on that, plus the date of the last quality audit score that was in place. And again, you have the ability to be able to do a double click on this and to dive deeper into the detail. When we get into the contract side of things, again, you have the detail of the contract, which is sitting on the ribbon at the top. And that also gives you the detail of the building, including the area, the monthly billing, and who also is the primary and both the account manager associated with that particular facility. The contract then detail is listed out below, and that is showing not only the contract identification number, the period of the contract, the total amount that's being used, and the type. And this is important because this will also help us discriminate between one-time tag work and ongoing recurring services. The service code that's associated with that, and then any description that was entered at the time that the task was completed. There is also, from a reference point of view, your PO number that may be associated with any contract that has been generated, so that we're able to tie those two together. When you click on the next tab at the top, you move then into tickets. This will then show on the building side any tickets or feedback that is associated with that particular location, so you have that ability to be able to drill down. It will also show the status of that ticket as well, and also the priority that was assigned to it. So again, this is a key part of us being able to fulfill our service obligation to you and ensuring that we're living up to the service level agreements that are in place for your particular portfolio. The next screen will take us to the visitation schedule, and this will be looking at dates of the previous visits that have taken place from an inspection point of view, and you'll also be able to see the results that are sitting out there. This is, again, I think, at a very, very critical sort of stage in our evolution in terms of keeping that transparency for you and making sure that you have that insight that we are actually performing those QA visits and are delivering that in the frequency and to the standard that is demanded by you, of course. And then last but not least on the buildings detail side is a deeper dive into the actual contact information. So this is your contact information associated with the locations, and you're able then to actually enter the different contact people. And I'll show you how we do that when we actually get into the overall company profile. But you can also at this point also assign these people, whoever it is within your portfolio, whether they have certain administration rights, i.e. the ability to be able to order supplies or not. All of that, again, can be exported. And this setup on how we actually go through this, we'll do in conjunction with you to make sure that the right folk within your portfolio have the right level of access and can see the right things that they're looking to see on the portal. So that ends the building dive. The next session that was section that we would navigate to would be actually having a look at the invoices. And this is to actually give us a look at both active invoices, i.e. those that are currently due or have been issued and are still due for payment. And also you'll be able to see archived invoices as well. So you have that historical view. Again, I would point out that the archive side of things will only go back into for the most part, it will be Q2 of 2022. You will not have the full historical view going back beyond that period. On this, you'll be able to have a status, which is basically a repeat of what you're seeing on the dashboard at the front end, which gives you the invoice status, and that's showing the total invoices, those that are within the due date, i.e. are still within the payment time, and anything which is potentially sitting in the past due block. On the actual invoice side, you can do the drill down, and we'll do that in just a second. But again, you're seeing whichever the invoice number is, what that is, the contract that's associated with it, the overall amount, any amount that's due against that, and the date that the document was actually issued. And it will also give a count then in terms of the number of dates. I would also add that if you want to take a physical copy of this or a PDF copy, you're able to do so using the print function on the right-hand side of that table. When we do the deeper dive on this, then the double click, this again allows you to actually go in, select the invoices that you wish to look at, and then you can also then use that from a submit payment in terms of being able to click on that. I would point out at the moment that this e-commerce side of the platform is not functioning. That is a development that we're still working on, and as soon as we have that, we'll make that available, but ultimately this will be the point where, from a simplicity point of view, you will be able to submit the payments directly from the portal at this point. Final thing on the invoicing side, again, this is just really a continuation of what I was saying here. The ability to be able to print those invoices, the ability to make the payment will also be there as a capability, as a future state capability. But this is also giving you some specific details around the assignments that are associated. So where you have, or where we're leveraging more than one provider to be able to provide your service, this just gives a little bit more of a breakdown in terms of how that payment is being assigned out to those individual vendors. Okay, let's have a look at tickets. So this is the screen, if you will, that gives us the overarching view, the 60,000-foot view, if you will, in terms of tickets that are currently in play. It gives you the ability to look back historically and understand any issues that are there, or historical tickets that have been raised. It also gives you the chance to create a new ticket as well, and we'll walk through that process in just a second. What I like about this is that you have the ability to be able to expand on the ticket details, but anything that is open and in process, you will have that complete list here so that you can see. So this is particularly useful, I think, when you're looking across a large scale portfolio with multiple locations. You can use this then using the filters to narrow down to a particular area or down to a particular block of facilities. When you do the double click, when you actually go in to raise a ticket, so your name will come up from a customer perspective. You can identify the priority of the ticket, which would be, again, in accordance with the service level agreements that we have established with you. You'll be able to enter your own details from a contact point of view so that we're able to provide that feedback. Location will be a drop down based on the portfolio. And whoever it is that you would like to have, the contact person, i.e. the individual who's raising the ticket, will put in their name there so that we can again close the loop from a provision of feedback. The subject will be an open sort of list there in terms of what it is that you're looking to achieve from the ticket. So fairly standard, as you would expect within any ticketing system. But then there's also the opportunity to provide a more detailed description that will actually help us resolve the issue in a more timely fashion. At the very bottom of the submission screen, you have the opportunity to reset if you want to sort of have a rethink about how that's being put in. And then you, of course, have the submit button. And what happens from this is that this goes directly into our case management platform. It automatically hits that queue. It'll be assigned by our customer service staff if they're not able to deal with that directly themselves. But that then gets assigned to whichever function within OpenWorks is required to provide that response. Within the view ticket details itself, again, this is where you're able to do that double click and actually get more detail in terms of not only what the next step is, what the description is, but also see if from a sort of internal perspective, how OpenWorks is actually processing and managing with the ticket and the steps that have been taken in order to ensure any reactive issue is being addressed, and also making sure that we are, again, holding ourselves to account for the timeliness of the standards that we are required to adhere to. So from a personal perspective, this is one of the, I think, most exciting aspects, because it just opens up and develops a massively new capability in terms of transparency, and also to make sure that we are proactively looking after you from a customer service aspect. Okay, as we get into the supply side of things, this is again the opportunity to be able to actually look at current supplies that are actively open, the ability to be able to open new supplies orders as required. Again, the filter tools, the download tools are there. And then you can see the detail that is associated with each order as it's been set up and where that is actually being shipped to. There is the opportunity, again, to do the double click and do the deeper dive on that. And we'll take a quick look at that now. But before we get to that piece, again, sorry, I want my slides out of sequence. But the key thing here is how you actually do the supply ordering. So in a very similar fashion to the raising of a ticket, You're coming in, you're checking that the ship to address is correct. You're checking that the supply that you're looking for, the specific SKU is there, the quantity that's required. And then as you do that, that will then bring up the pricing that is associated with that. And then you can choose to add that item. And then you'll start to see, as the items are built out, they'll start to populate underneath the top toolbar. And then once you've got that, you'll also then see the total amount, which is associated with the order, which generates. And finally, once everything is in place, you're then in a position to finally click and submit the order. And then that will then populate back onto that front screen for the supply side. So again, that double click, then you'll then see the detail that is associated with an order that's out there. So not only will you have the SKU number, you'll have the description associated with that SKU, and also the other details in terms of the quantity that's being set out there. Great feature that's been added here as well is the ability to be able to duplicate this order, so that if you have it for one location and you know that you're going to need a similar package for another area, you're able to actually duplicate that, and then you're not having to go through the whole administration side of trying to recreate a new order for a different location. Okay, final bit from the portal's perspective is the company profile. And this here is where you are able to customize the experience from your perspective. So there is an opportunity to upload your own company logo. There's an opportunity to edit any company information that is sitting in there. And most importantly, this is also where we can decide how we add new users to this. So those you're controlling from an administration point of view, you're controlling who has access to the portal, but not only that, you're also controlling what they're able to do whilst they're in the portal. And so this is where the comprehensive list would be built out, and we're able to make sure that the folk that are sitting in there are also then able to only do what they need to do or see what they need to see from a portfolio perspective. And what would happen then is that we'll just do a double click in terms of how when you do click on that add user button, what comes up next is how you're actually entering that person. So this would be, if you will, the user profile. So you put in their name as you would expect, you put in their contact email address, job title, and then on top of that, you would also create the username that they would use. And that's going to be basically the email address is the same as the username. Any further detail that you can provide around contact information or cell information is great, because again, that does mean that when an issue does come up, or we're looking to actually contact somebody at a specific location, that information is already captured, and we're not having to go and seek that through you as an administrator. You're then, from this point of view, is defining which permissions the individual has. And it's very easy, as you can see from this, is that when somebody does leave or move to a different role where they don't require portal access, you can turn that off in terms of the activation side of things. Once you've set all of that up, simply a question of hitting the submit button, and then that will make sure that everything is being delivered in that fashion. Okay, that has been a pretty rapid run through the portal and its attributes. But what I would like to do is take a pause here and see if there have been any questions that are coming up. So Maria, back to you.
Thank you so much, Ed. Guys, as you know, there is a little button at the bottom here of the Zoom screen where you can plug in your questions. So go ahead. Okay, we've got a couple coming in. Ed, this one's for you. Can we control who orders supplies and what items are available?
Great question. Yes, you can. As we were showing, when you actually set up the user, that will decide whether that individual team member has the opportunity to order supplies. The list of supplies that is available there at the moment is those ones that we have within our current catalog. So anything that you're ordering through us today will now be able to be ordered directly through the portal. I do want to take this moment to pause for just a second, though, because one of the exciting innovations that we're looking at, which will be an iterative evolution, if you will, in terms of where this comes, will be around a new portal piece, which will actually give us access to a far greater list of SKUs. And my colleague Mitch, who is actually on the panel with me today, he and the team on the procurement side have been working with this, and this is actually going to give us access to one much greater spending power. So you'll actually see that value being returned to you from a client perspective. But in addition to that, because of the nature of the exciting arrangement, we'll also have lists to a far, far greater list, number of SKUs. The number sort of being far closer to 40,000 as opposed to the 2,000 or 3,000 that we're currently having. And also it's covering multiple service lines. So I know I'm going slightly off piece here, but this is another exciting piece that we're expecting to see. And this should be very much in place by at least the end of Q1 going into Q2 of this year. And again, I think that's going to be a very exciting value add back to our client group. Great question, though. Thank you, Maria.
Awesome. Thank you. Just had another very good question come in. Do we have access to billing?
In terms of, yes, absolutely. So when we went through the invoice screens, any billing that is sitting in there, that'll be all listed and itemized out. So in addition to however you normally receive your invoice as per your instructions to us, you'll also have that ability then to be able to do the dive and look at that and get the detail around what transactions and assignments are associated with a specific invoice.
And I'm going to jump in here. Sorry, this question was from someone who joined a little bit late. We will be sharing with you a recording of this webinar, as well as a PDF version of the deck we just went over. So you will have plenty of material to go over, even if you joined late. Okay, another question. Will past quality audits show in the portal?
So quality audits, again, as I touched on from a data point of view, quality audits will start to show based on the system. So the start date will be, as we're using QAs from February onwards, those ones will start to show in the system. Anything that predates that is sitting in our old system, and regrettably, we were not able to shift that data across from an historical point of view. So we will still have QA scores which are sitting there, and we'll make sure that whether we're showing them at a quarterly business review or a semi-annual business review, you'll have access to that data for the prior ones. But as we go forward, all QAs will be able to be seen. So you'll have that transparency into that data. And again, for me, this was such a key point of demonstrating how we are delivering our service commitment.
Awesome, thank you. Another question. Will I be able to control which parts of my portfolio my facility managers will have visibility to?
Absolutely. Again, this was part of the beta feedback that we had, was that, particularly if you're looking after a large portfolio with, hundreds of properties that are sitting on there, you want to be able to allow whoever it is, whether it's a regional facility manager, to only have a view at their specific part of the portfolio. And you want to do that for a couple of reasons. One is around, yes, you want to make sure from an operational security point of view that you're not unduly sharing information. But the second piece is, well, it's about simplicity. If I'm a regional FM and I'm looking after, for example, properties in Florida, I don't want to be distracted by information which is concerning me in and out of state, which is something that it is not my level of focus. So yes, that absolutely is going to be there. I was actually talking to our development team yesterday, and they've confirmed that that requirement, which was shared with us, I want to say at the early part of this month, January, that requirement is going to be online. So it may not be online on day one tomorrow, but it will certainly be online by the end of this week or Monday at the very latest.
Great. One more question. Who is receiving the login information, and what do I do if I don't receive it? If you don't mind, Ed, I'd like to answer this one. We are sending login detail emails to company administrator. That's the primary contact that we have on file, which means one login per company. This person will then add you to the company portal account. But as we mentioned it at the beginning of this webinar, if you need a login or if you have any problems, please email customerportal@openworksweb.com. Again, all of this information and this key email will be provided later today when we do send out login detail informations, as well as a recording of this webinar and the PDF version of the guidebook. Okay, one more question. Will we still receive emailed invoices, or does everything have to be done through the portal going forward?
Thank you very much for asking this. The answer to the question is we will still be sending out emailed invoices. We are not going to change that side of things, and that's been very, very clear feedback from the sort of beta trial group. We couldn't expect everybody to go in and start to adopt this technology straight away. So the way that you receive your invoices today will be the way that you receive your invoices tomorrow. We would like to encourage our customers, because we believe that you have much better control and transparency through using the portal, and also there's more detail there. However, we accept the fact that asking people to embrace a wholly new solution is not necessarily the right idea. And the way that I look at this is that this is no different than, if you're doing things on a personal basis and you're having your arrangements with your local electric company. Yes, you'll still receive your paper statement and paper invoice, but you have the ability then to go into the portal, look at historical stuff, and also to be able to make payments within this way. So this is not something we're saying big bang that everybody has to jump into this. Everything will be status quo, but now you have an additional tool to help you with the management of the overall account and the finance side.
Great. And with that, I believe we have come to an end. No more questions are coming in, but thank you so much, Ed. And thank you everyone for joining. We really do appreciate you and your time. As mentioned, please stay tuned for more communications regarding the customer portal. We will be sending login details again to company administrators or main contacts, a link to access a recording of this webinar, and the PDF version of the deck that we just went over with Ed. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day or evening. And here's to the OpenWorks customer portal. Thank you so much.